Elon Musk, one of the richest men alive today, with a fortune soaring beyond $200 billion. But what if I told you there were people in history who were far, far richer than Musk? Kings who drowned in gold, warriors who conquered empires, tycoons who built industries from scratch. Their fortunes, adjusted for today's value, make Musk's wealth look modest. So who are these hidden titans of wealth? Let's uncover the richest people in history before Elon Musk. Imagine a man so wealthy that simply giving away gold collapsed entire economies. Meet Mansa Musa, the ruler of the Mali Empire in the 14th century and widely regarded as the wealthiest person to have ever lived. His fortune, a staggering $400 billion, more than twice what Musk owns today. Mansa Musa's reign transformed Mali into one of the richest and most powerful states of the medieval world. He expanded his empire across West Africa, seizing control of key trade routes that dominated the lucrative gold and salt trade. At its peak, Mali supplied almost half of the world's gold, making Musa the undisputed wealthiest man of his time. But it wasn't just gold that made him legendary, it was how he spent it. In 1324, Musa embarked on a pilgrimage to Mecca, a journey that became the most extravagant display of wealth in history. He travelled with a caravan of 60,000 men, including 12,000 personal attendants, soldiers and slaves, each carrying gold bars and silk robes. He brought hundreds of camels, each loaded with 300 pounds of gold. His generosity was so extreme that when he flooded the markets of Cairo and Medina with gold, it devalued the metal, causing inflation that lasted for over a decade. But Mansa Musa was more than just rich, he was a visionary. He used his wealth to redefine Africa's cultural and intellectual landscape. Under his rule, Timbuktu became a centre of learning, architecture and Islamic scholarship. He funded universities, libraries and mosques, including the world-renowned Genghis Mosque, which still stands today as a symbol of Mali's golden age. His contributions to education and trade created a lasting legacy, influencing Africa and the medieval world for centuries. Unlike many wealthy rulers, Mansa Musa wasn't just remembered for his riches, he was remembered for his impact. What if I told you the richest ruler in history didn't hoard his wealth in gold or castles, but in absolute power? Meet Genghis Khan, the man who built an empire so vast that it stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, covering nearly 12 million square miles. Can you guess his net worth? Technically priceless. Born as Temujin in 1162, Genghis Khan rose from being an outcast to forging the largest contiguous empire in human history. Unlike traditional kings who measured wealth in gold, Khan's fortune lay in the lands, people and resources he controlled. Every conquered city, every trade route he seized added more riches to his name. And here's the twist. He never built golden palaces, nor did he stash away treasure in vaults. Instead, he redistributed wealth strategically, ensuring that his empire thrived on a network of taxes, trade, and absolute military dominance. His empire controlled the Silk Road, the lifeline of global commerce, making him the ultimate economic overlord of the 13th century. But let's talk about his real legacy, his bloodline. Genghis Khan's conquests didn't just shape nations, they shaped genealogy. Genghis Khan gathered to his bosom many of his conquered enemies' wives and daughters. A 2003 study revealed that about 38 million people, or 1 in 200 of the world's population, are his descendants. As the founder of the Mongol Empire, the world's largest contiguous empire, he was one of history's most terrifying figures. The estimated 40 million deaths toll of the Mongol conquests he initiated, viewed as a percentage of the world's population in his day, would be equivalent to 278 million deaths if adjusted for the 20th century. Extrapolated to the modern era, his victims would have been about 4 to 6 times greater than those of Hitler, Stalin, and Mao combined. He was ruthless, but he was also strategic, adaptable, and arguably one of the most influential leaders the world has ever seen. Genghis Khan didn't just take land, he built a new world order. And in doing so, he became one of the most powerful and wealthiest rulers in history. But what happened when his empire collapsed? That's a story for another time. What if I told you that one of the wealthiest rulers in history wasn't even supposed to rule, and that she overthrew her own husband in a coup to seize the throne? This is the story of Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia. A woman whose ambition was as vast as her empire, and whose wealth and extravagance rivaled the greatest kings of Europe. Born as Sophie of Anhalt-Zerbst in 1729, she wasn't Russian by birth, but she would soon become its most powerful ruler. She married into the Russian royal family, but her husband, Emperor Peter III, was unpopular, weak, and more interested in playing with toy soldiers than ruling a vast empire. Catherine saw her opportunity. In 1762, she orchestrated a coup, had Peter deposed, and took the throne as Empress of Russia. From that moment, she reigned for 34 years, making Russia richer, stronger, and more powerful than ever before. Under her rule, Russia expanded its territory dramatically, adding lands from Poland, Crimea, and Alaska, making it one of the largest empires in the world. But her wealth wasn't just in land, it was in unparalleled luxury. Catherine built palaces dripping in gold, like the famous Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, filled with rare artworks, crystal chandeliers, and intricate gold detailing. She was obsessed with art and culture, collecting over 4,000 paintings, commissioning hundreds of sculptures, and expanding what is now the Hermitage Museum, one of the most prestigious art collections in the world. Imagine being born into extreme poverty, working long hours as a child labourer, and then rising to become one of the richest men in human history, all before the age of 66. This is the story of Andrew Carnegie, the man who built America's skylines, revolutionised industry, and redefined what it meant to be wealthy. Andrew Carnegie's journey began in 1835 in Scotland, where his family struggled to make ends meet. When the Industrial Revolution destroyed their weaving business, they left for America hoping for a better future. Young Andrew, just 13 years old, took a job in a textile factory, earning $1.20 per week. A small fortune for a child, but still barely enough to survive. But Carnegie was ambitious. He taught himself to read and learned the power of networking. By 18, he was working in the railroad industry, where he saw firsthand how steel could shape the future. With his sharp business mind and risk-taking nature, he soon invested in steel manufacturing, and that's where his fortune exploded. Carnegie didn't just make steel, he revolutionized it. He introduced mass production techniques, built some of the most advanced steel mills in the world, and slashed costs like never before. His company, Carnegie Steel, became the backbone of America's industrial rise, fueling the construction of railroads, bridges, and skyscrapers. By 1901, Carnegie sold his company to J.P. Morgan for $480 million, worth a staggering $372 billion today, making him one of the richest men to ever live. But here's what made him different. Unlike other tycoons, Carnegie didn't believe in dying rich. He famously said, "The man who dies rich dies disgraced." So instead of hoarding his fortune, he gave it away, donating over 90% of his wealth before his death. He built over 2,500 libraries across the world, funded universities, research centres, and public institutions, and even established Carnegie Hall, one of the most famous music venues in the world. His philanthropy still benefits millions today. But Carnegie's story isn't without controversy. His steel empire was built on the backs of low-paid, overworked labourers. During the Homestead Strike of 1892, workers protested for better wages, but Carnegie's company crushed the strike using private security forces, leading to violence and loss of life. It remains a dark stain on his otherwise extraordinary legacy. Yet, despite his ruthless business tactics, Carnegie remains a symbol of the American dream. He proved that ambition, innovation, and risk-taking could build empires, and that wealth, when used wisely, could transform the world. So, what do we learn from these figures? Being rich isn't just about money, it's about power, influence, and the impact you leave behind. Mansa Musa built cultural hubs. Genghis Khan reshaped the world. Catherine ruled with elegance, and Carnegie built the steel backbone of a nation. Musk may be today's richest, but history tells us there have always been wealthier figures. Who do you think had the most fascinating wealth story? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more eye-opening documentaries.